So, back away from like the Friday the 13th, talking shit. Here's an interesting twist on like the Las Vegas shit. You know, I've been talking about that this morning. I guess I'm talking about that a lot today because I'm here. I don't know. Maybe because I see so much weird shit talked about it. I don't know. It's actually, I hate to say the word entertaining, but it's actually, I guess I'll use the word entertaining. Like it's actually entertaining to me to, like see all these different points of view, see all these different theories and all this stuff. But like, here's an interesting twist to all of that. Okay, apparently, the security guard, the infamous security guard who at first showed up after and then later came out, he showed up before the shooting started, and 250 rounds were fired into the hallway, and then this gentleman allegedly waited 6 minutes to open fire on the crowd, blah blah blah. Like, you guys know, like, for one thing, like, why was he even up there? Like, he just happened to be up there on the fucking 32nd floor checking a fire exit. I don't know, weird. But anyway, here's like the weird thing. Okay, apparently this dude was scheduled to give like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 5 or 6 like high profile interviews with who knows who. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know who they were supposed to be with or anything like that. But apparently this dude was scheduled to be doing these interviews, and all of a sudden he's missing. Now, we could read a couple of things into that. I could read a couple of things into that. Either he's decided he doesn't want to do this, he doesn't want to be in the public, when it comes to such a fucking horrendous thing. Maybe he's, decided that he doesn't want to be part of it whatsoever, and I get that. Like, hey, if that's the case, like, I would get that. Dude's doing his job, he's a security guard, maybe he doesn't want to be part of this. Like, dude, like, I'm sure if that's the case, in his mind he's thinking, fuck, I only got a job working security, I didn't want anything to do with this. And I would get that. But more so, it almost lends credibility to the people who are saying, that this was like a government thing, an inside job, a false flag, blah 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 blah, like all the different fucking conspiracy theories, and some of which I'm sure are true. With any story, it's like, fuck, you get, there's 3 versions. There's the truth, there's what you hear, or there's like, how's that go? There's this person's version, and the truth, right? So obviously, I personally don't think we're ever really going to know what happened, because I really doubt the government would ever just actually come out and say, hey, yeah, we actually did this, or anything like that. Or, hey, it was a fucking, drug running thing gone, or a gun running thing gone wrong, or anything like that. I don't think we're ever going to hear that from them. I don't think they'd ever admit that. Or, hey, we lied and tried to cover it up for whatever reason. I don't think we're ever going to hear that. But it does lend a little bit of credibility to the fact that it may have been something like that, due to the fact that he may have had information or was going to share something that maybe they didn't want him to say. Maybe someone out there did not want him to say what he had to say. It's just a little strange that all of a sudden, when this guy is scheduled to do these, 5+6 interviews or whatever, and I imagine they were probably pretty high-profile interviews. I'm guessing, probably the major so-called news corporations. And I'm not, I'm not saying these for sure, but, like CNN or MSN or whatever like that. I'm not saying it's them, but I'm guessing they were going to be pretty high-profile interviews. I don't think they were going to be with, like, YouTubers. But, it does kind of lend to, his disappearance does kind of lend to someone not wanting him to divulge what he had to say. And that's just my opinion. Like I said, the other side of that coin is maybe he just decided he didn't want to be part of this. And I would get that too. But I imagine that this guy was probably offered money for these interviews. I mean, like, people don't generally go and do, interviews for like news organizations or anything like that for free. Generally, they're getting compensated in some way. So I'm guessing with 5 or 6 that he was supposed to do, he was probably in line to get somewhat of a good payoff. And that's just my guess. I'm not positive. He could have been doing them for free. I don't know. He could have been doing them for a fucking whopper. My question is like, for instance, this is hypothetical, obviously, as is. It's all of the things that I have to say about this because I'm not law enforcement. I don't know anything. I don't have any fucking security clearance. I don't know what really is going on. All I know is what you guys know. But my guess would be that someone didn't want him to say what he had to say. Why else would somebody who potentially stood to have a pretty substantial payday decide to disappear? And excuse me. And I apologize for not recalling people's names, but apparently someone who's been to his house, female, I think, from what I understand, has been looking for him and went to his house again. He's gone. Like, the dude is he's basically disappeared. And it really does kind of lend to the fact that somebody didn't want him to say what he had to say. I mean, why else would you forfeit a payday? Why else would you not want to, do these interviews? If you had something to say, why would you not want to do it? Why would you not want to do that? Like, he obviously scheduled the interviews. I don't think someone did that for him. He obviously scheduled these interviews. He obviously agreed to do them, and now all of a sudden he's disappeared. To me, that looks like someone didn't want him to do it. Now, there's also a couple scenarios that go along with that. It's a strong possibility that Mandalay Bay told him, hey, you can't, or you'll lose your job, or hey, we'll give you more money not to. Maybe not Mandalay, maybe somebody else. Maybe somebody else said, hey, we'll give you more money not to, or you can't. But either way, it really, really does look like this gentleman agreed to do these interviews. This Jesus Campos, I believe is his name, agreed to do these interviews, and somewhere along the line, on his way to get ready to do them, somebody decided he shouldn't, whether it be him, somebody else, fuck, I don't know, maybe his mother told him it wasn't a good idea. I know my mom would say that's not a good idea, but apparently somewhere down the line, someone decided that he wasn't going to do these interviews. Now, it might have been him, it might have been fucking MGM, it might have been fucking the Mandalay Bay, it might have been, because I say MGM because MGM owns Mandalay Bay. Anyway, it may have been him, it may have been Mandalay Bay, it may have been the government, it may have been the FBI, who knows? I mean, fuck, for all we know, they put him in witness protection. I don't fucking know. But the thing that's strange about it to me is like, he agreed to do them. I'm guessing he stood to get paid pretty good money for doing them. And I've worked security in the past amongst a lot of other things. In my criminal days, I've done debt collecting. I've done a lot of bad shit to make money. And when you're that type of person, and I'm not saying he's that type of person. What I'm saying is like, in my criminal days, when I was working security, either doing private security, personal security, quote-unquote bodyguarding, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, I know that it does pay pretty well, but I imagine that an interview with a high-profile news organization would look pretty nice to somebody like that. And what I'm getting at in saying that is like, so I've never worked for a major casino because I have, extensive felony background, and I'm not saying I'm proud of that, I'm just saying I do. I've never worked for a casino, so I don't know how much they get paid. But I'm guessing, based on the amounts of money I've been paid for doing security in places like clubs, nightclubs, and places like that where I have worked as a bouncer and stuff like that. The most I ever made doing that was probably about 40 grand a year. So, and that was working fucking, literally Hollywood Boulevard, high profile club, and I was the head of security there. I was making pretty good money. This dude, I don't think, was the head of security at Mandalay Bay or anything like that. As far as I know, he was just a security guard. It was just his job. So I'm guessing that a payout like that would look pretty good to him. I imagine that, and I've never given an interview, for like a high profile news organization, but I'm imagining that if he had 5 or 6 scheduled, that would probably be enough money to buy a home. In total. So really, what reason would you have not to do it? Why would you disappear? Why would you forfeit that amount of money if he had it coming? I'm not saying he did. This is just my speculation. The only logical thing I can think of is one of two scenarios. He either decided he didn't want to be part of this, and if he did that, I'm guessing it was because he decided it might put him in danger, which kind of feeds into the government telling me he can't do it, whoever that may be, FBI, whoever, CIA, whatever, I don't know, one of those fucking 3-letter organizations, you know what I mean? There's millions of them. I mean, in my lifetime, I've been busted by the ATF, I've been busted by the fucking DEA, I've been busted by a lot of these fucking 3-letter organizations. I mean, there's millions of them out there, we got fucking tons of them. But, when they don't want you to do something, you're probably not going to do it. So he either decided not to, they decided for him, or worst case scenario being a criminal entity actually disappeared this guy for fear that he was going to expose them. That might sound a little bit far-fetched to most people, but I'm guessing that ever since he resurfaced, they've probably had some type of eye on him. One of these 3-letter organizations probably had some type of eye on him, monitoring him in some way. So I think it would be pretty difficult for, a criminal organization to get him, disappear him, and such. So I'm guessing that, it's one of the other two. He either decided not to, which I have no idea why he would, unless it was fear-based, and the other one being that, he was told by the government or one of these 3-letter organizations that he cannot. And the only reason they would say that is because he has information that they do not want him to share. That would be the same as if a criminal entity took him, and because they don't want him to share information. I just have a hard time believing he just changed his mind. Because realistically, if you just change your mind, you don't have to disappear. You can stay in your house and just say, nah, I changed my mind. Now, granted, I've never been in a situation like he's in, and I don't know if it would be that nonchalant, but you know what I'm saying. You really don't have to disappear to not do something. This guy has dis-fucking-peered, as far as I understand it to be so far. I'm not sure what will come out later. It might come out that he's just been in Barbados fucking sitting on the beach and just said, fuck it, I don't know. But, it really lends a lot of credibility to a lot of the things that a lot of very intelligent people are saying when it comes to this being a inside job and, the government being behind it, because who else would have the power to tell somebody they are not going to do their interviews they scheduled? Granted, look, hey, in my life I've met a lot of what I would call high profile type criminals who, yes, definitely have the power to tell somebody they can't do something because it's a fear-based thing. Back in the day, and I'm not saying I ever knew or worked for, but I'm saying hypothetically, if you had, known something about fucking John Gotti or something and he told you not to fucking, not to make an interview or say anything about it, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't. I'm guessing that people, ISIS type organizations probably instill that same type of fear in certain groups of people. I don't know if I would necessarily be frightened of them for my own personal safety, but maybe for my family's, you know what I mean? And he might be thinking the same way. But I think the more likely scenario is some government entity told this guy that he is not going to do these interviews, in which case it lends a lot of credibility to the fact that they don't want him to say something he knows. And that obviously lends credibility to the fact that they're lying and covering something up, correct? I mean, if that's the case. Granted, this is all hypothetical coming from me. It's just my hypothesis. It's just what I see as a somewhat intelligent American citizen. Who else would have the power to tell somebody they're not doing the interviews? Why else would you disappear unless someone told you you're not going to do it? Someone told you you cannot do this. I'm thinking he stood to, and earned a bunch of money for this. So like, who else would have the power to say you're not going to do it and have him just disappear in order not to? Realistically, it lends a lot of credibility to the fact that this may be some sort of cover-up. Just my thinking. Who knows?